It is my great pleasure now to move into the time of the service that we're dedicating to learning more about this memorial garden, ash garden that lives right outside our church property, or on our church property, right outside our door and windows. I ask you when we are done with the service today, if you might, please stroll out there and take a look. I am always surprised at how many people at the South Church, one, say, we have an ash garden on the property? That's what's behind those gates over there, that fence. Or they will say they've never been over there to take a look. It's a beautiful place. One of the joys for me as a pastor are all the people I meet during the week that you don't know. The people that stop by here because they want to have a moment in the sanctuary to pray. The people who stop by the memorial garden because they sense as they're walking by that there's something peaceful there. There's something beautiful there. And they walk in and they sit down and they relax and they pray and they meditate. I may never see them again, but if I'm outside or I see somebody walk that direction, I often walk over and see if they'd like to have a talk. Often they say, no, I'm fine, I just have to spend a few moments alone here, and they do. Two other wonderful things about the garden. I talked to people in the neighborhood, some of their children are fond of the garden, and nobody's desecrated anything over there, so they're welcome to walk in. They walk in, and they're gentle, and they're peaceful, and they're there. But one young man that we met last summer, Angela and I were out meeting neighbors and standing around their garages. And he said, I like to go over and talk to Mr. Jeff. Well, we said, I was putting two and two together, but I had to ask who Mr. Jeff was, and that's how he refers to the beautiful statue there. And I'll stop babbling with one more observation, because that beautiful statue, of course, is St. Francis. And we have pictures of that on I think in the brochure. We have pictures of St. Francis on our website. And again, I think it's just an incredible, great testimony to what kind of a church this is. That this church with American Baptist roots going back to 1937 has a statue of a Catholic saint in its garden. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing. It makes me smile too, but it's just also very special that can happen and does happen here. So, without any further words from me until later, I would like to introduce Mary Faith Greenhall Weiss, who is part of the family that is responsible for making that garden come to life. And Mary Faith is going to begin our conversation and presentation this morning, and then all the members of the committee, which we will explain to you, are going to have a time to speak. And we want you to pay attention, because we are also letting you know that this garden is available. And you may buy spaces there, and it's an incredibly reasonable way to go, so to speak. So I want you to really register what we're saying today, just so you know more about it, and we help educate, and if nothing else, I hope you know that you are invited to come over there and sit in that garden next to St. Francis, and among people who have founded this church, and pray and meditate and be at peace. Mary Faith, would you please?
Thank you, Rick. And thanks for not asking me what grade I am or how old I am. You're probably wondering, and with good reason, who is this woman? Our former pastor used to say from the pulpit, well, it must be a special day because Mary Faith's in church. And yes, today is a special day, and I'm really glad to be here. It's a special day because I get to tell you about three things today. First, the beginning of the Memorial Garden, what the Memorial Garden can mean to you, and also what the Memorial Garden means to myself and also to the committee. First, a little bit about the beginning of the Memorial Garden. Let me take you way back and share with you that I was baptized at South Church in 1969. Quick, we're going to do the math. In my younger years, I was very active at the church. One of my favorite memories was serving on the coffee committee with Gail and Trina. I was married here in 1992, and Gary and I have really enjoyed being married here. And it was exactly 63 days after Gary and I were married that my dad passed away. Dad, Dick Greenhall, and Mom, Mary Ann Greenhall, knew that when he died, he would be cremated. What they didn't know was where his ashes would be once he was cremated. So after his death, Mom gave it a lot of thought about where he would actually be placed. She thought about it and did a lot of research and suggested creating a memorial garden or an ash garden for the South Church. And with the church's blessing, Mom created a garden, hired the appropriate contractors, established a committee, and funded the building of the garden with funds from Dad's memorial contributions and from her own personal contributions. It was kind of like that movie, Field of Dreams. Have you seen it? It's about a man that builds a baseball field and wonders if people will actually come to play in it. Well, I remember very vividly my mother wondering if people would really actually come and be buried in the memorial garden. Well, Mom, since then, 45 people, in fact, have been interred in the garden. And we have many others that have reservations to be interred there as well. After building the garden, Mom chaired the committee, and her very dear friend, Gail Boyer, was an active member on the original garden committee. We are so grateful to have her on our current committee today as well. It was Mom's plan that when she retired and moved to Evanston, I would continue the family legacy and assume responsibility for managing the garden. Mom moved to Evanston 2 years ago, and a new garden committee was established as many of the members of the original committee had passed away. So that's the first thing. The second thing I wanted to share with you is why the Memorial Garden is particularly meaningful, maybe meaningful to you. It's hard to think about dying, isn't it? Whether it's you, yourself, your family members, friends, it's hard. It's something no one can really wants to think about, but in fact it's actually a fact of life or death. South Church Memorial Garden is a familiar place. It's a beautiful place, a place where you can sit and be with those you love and those you have lost. It's a place where you can remember to feel the joy and feel the sorrow. To know that those special people remain in your hearts and will always be there for you. It can also be a place for those who love you as well, for a place for them to come when you have passed along, so they can remember you. I learned to live each day at a time, and you never know what tomorrow's going to bring. So I give you some thoughts, and perhaps you too will consider the garden a special place for you and for those you love, next to the church where you feel at home. And as Rick says, it's a really good deal. Third and lastly, why the garden is special to me. The garden is special to me because my father, my second cousin, and my brother are buried there, each of whom I love with all my heart. With that said, I would like to introduce the garden committee and ask that some of them share their connection to the Memorial Garden as well. However, before I do that, I'd really like to share my immense gratitude and appreciation for each of the committee members for all their time, contributions, and commitments. And let me just cite a few things. First of all, Mom, whose vision, the garden wouldn't be there without Mom's vision, with Mom's creating it. Rick's been very supportive of our goals from the very onset of our goals and objectives, and has been a leader between the church and the congregation. Gail Boyer has provided insight and continuity from the past to the present. Trina has contributed her financial and IT and spreadsheet knowledge and skills. Rob Bachhuber has been our researcher on many occasions when we managed the creation of the nameplates in the future. Amy Mick took ownership in managing of the mailings and recreating of the new map, as she will talk about here, for the church office. And Linda Lenz designed and wrote the brochure in your bulletins and was authored in many of our letters. So again, my sincere thanks to each and every one of you. I appreciate everything you've done and all your time. So with that, I'd like to invite you to be the first to share your relationship with the garden and the community.